WFM 91.7.
Good afternoon to you, dear listener. Once again, 3 minutes past 2, and I am Kimberly Ubiabo. It is towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria, Series 2 on Political Arena. This beautiful Tuesday afternoon, the 31st of August, 2021, still. And we'll be looking at engaging men to support women political participation. My name is Kimberly Ubiabo once again, and our guest today on the program is Oluwafemi John, who is a senior program manager, Kimpart's Development Initiative. Later on, we'll be having Okeke, Anya, program manager, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. Good afternoon to you, Oluwafemi John.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to have you join us.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Gender equality can be achieved if men take responsibility and work side by side with women. Now, over the years, women have been marginalized in the Nigerian political space, and this is as a result of our patriarchal society. There's need for men to work alongside women to support gender equality and create a conducive environment for women to thrive in the political space. The phone line will be open shortly, but the number is 07000 917 917, and you can also send your comments via our social media handle at WFM917, and be a part of the conversation by sending in your text or WhatsApp message to 0703 1756537. Now, Oluwafemi, do you think the gross marginalization of women in the Nigerian political space is due to the patriarchal nature of our society?
Okay, yes, definitely yes. The underrepresentation, the marginalization of women in Nigeria is due to a lot of factors, and I'm very sure one of these, which is resounding at every time that we're analyzing this, and which encapsulate every other factor, is mostly still talking about the patriarchal nature of our society. So definitely yes. Of course, when we talk about patriarchal nature of the society or the system we practice in the country or in our society, it still boils down to a lot of societal norms, cultural norms, religious, which as one way or the other enter into political structures, internal party democracies. Of course, it affects women in the area of finance too. And of course, I won't say to mention education. You know, this is a society whereby, many would say it doesn't, it's not common again, but it still exists, where women are most times seen that their journey in life ends in the other room or possibly in the kitchen. So a lot of things like that. Of course, even in the religious settings, you see most of our preachers, they are stereotypical. Most times, women are not given a front role, and these are some of these things, right? Some people call them little, but they are huge. These are some of the things that send signals, psychological signals, to generations upon generations, and we start transferring some of those norms over and over, passing it over. So I so much agree with the fact that, yes, patriarchal system or nature of the society contribute a whole lot to it.
All right, now how can men as leaders take meaningful actions to foster an increase in women's representation in decision-making bodies? How do you think this can be achieved?
I think the conversation has been on and on and on for years. After the Benjamin conference, and there is this CSW, Commission of the Status of Women, conversations has been coming around the fact that men need to be involved. And of course, plans upon plans, strategies upon strategies have been reviewed over the years. But one of the things that came so strong in some of the research studies, analyses that I've done personally is the fact that men, when it comes to ensuring gender equality as a whole, of course, increasing women political representation and participation, as much as it's important to bring men into the conversation, it's also very important that men is not seen as a problem to solve.
Okay.
Right? Because over the years, we've seen men as a problem to solve when we're talking about gender equality. But the truth is, we can achieve gender equality if we're not bringing men into the conversation. Then we need to talk about masculinity. We need to talk about power, and that takes me to positive masculinities, right? You know, it's just involving it is involving men. You know, in using every of their strengths, be you physical, be you emotional, intelligent, psychological, to champion healthy behavior in the community and the society. You know, it starts from, let me paint this picture quickly, right? This is a society whereby when you...
Okay, we'll try to connect with Oluwafemi shortly. Now, this is towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria, Series 2 on political arena. And we have our first guest on, Oluwafemi John, Senior Program Manager, Impact Development Initiative. We're looking at engaging men to support women political participation this afternoon. And recall, I said, gender equality can be achieved if men take responsibility and work side by side with women. Be a part of the conversation. 070. Yeah, go ahead. 07000 917 917. All right, Oluwafemi, good to connect with you. So you were saying?
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to paint a picture that we are in a society whereby when you call an 8-year-old boy a big boy, he starts bouncing, right? And when you call a 65-year-old woman a sweet 16, she is very happy. Now, what am I trying to say? This society, let me give you my own story. Let me bring it down home. I grew up in just a normal, middle class neighborhood where you are at liberty to go out and go play football, and there are your sisters, right? I'm the only male in my family. My sisters would definitely cook because I know that they are going to do that. But somebody somewhere just called me to attention. My dad called me to attention to say, you are going to be useless if you think because you're the only male child or boy child and you're not doing what you're meant to do to understand some of the things that brings family together. Yes, some of the things that some of the values that keep society going. Right, it starts from the home. Somebody called me the other. This is a society whereby we have young women are counting the number of ladies they slept with to claim their big boyness, if there's an English like that. So now, but when we bring men into the conversation, they start using their strength, their intelligence, their emotional and physical strength to champion those healthy behaviors. This is a society whereby we even say men don't have to cry. Now, these are some of the things that are creating this impression of this power imbalance, this inequality, and there's this psychological implication of that makes bring the superiority and the like. But when we bring men into the conversation, and men are also seen gatekeepers, they are seen as stakeholders, they are seen as partners, and ultimately they are seen as the beneficiary of such conversation. They start narrowing it down to the boys. When we talk about men, then we need to talk about boys. So they start teaching boys the need for them to display their vulnerabilities, emotional intelligence, moral, and courage, even involving advocacies that talks about gender equality, just such as myself.
Okay.
So some of the things are very, very important for us to do because, of course, like the question you had, men also need to involve in advocacies because the truth is we don't need to agonize about anything. We need to start organizing. So and when we're talking about organizing, we're talking about bringing men into advocacy, such as changing the legislative, the legislative framework, the legal framework that guides some of the political participation in the country, such as our constitution, our electoral act. It's very imperative and it's very important. So because when men speak on behalf of women, and a lot of these things are intertwined. Currently in this country, the highest the National Assembly has gone is, in terms of women political representation, is 8.3%. That's the highest this country has achieved so far, right? And I think that happened, if I can still get that statistics correctly, that happened around 2007 at the National Assembly. Now, looking at that, but when fellow men are talking to a legislative as a parliament, rather, as the case is, that is dominated by men, and they are also advocating and talking about men's issues, then you see that there's a way the conversation flows, right? there's a way the conversation will get to the peak. And of course, it will also create more chances for women. And
Okay.
apart from even that, okay?
I guess that brings us to the next question, because I was going to ask you now that in the political space, how can men as husbands or partners, fathers, sons, and, other family members support women's role in, the political space, in politics?
Okay. How can, if I get the question correctly, how can men...
How can men,
yeah.
be partner, husbands, fathers, away from men as leaders now? How can men as husbands, fathers, sons, and other family members support women's role in the political space?
No, there are a lot of them. Like I said, there are a lot of them. Men need, conversation need to be reshaped, redefined as men, as understanding men as gatekeepers. And when they speak, of course, in our society, even we're talking about the community structures now. Let's go back to our community and let's talk a bit about community engagement. These are the things, by the time we are talking to women, and these are the same men they go back home to go and talk, to, they live with, they relate with. These are also the same men, one way or the other, that are involved in violence against the women we are talking in question. Now, I want to, now when we pick men and we orientate them, one way or the other, we also give them the mandate to go back to the community level to spread the gospel. Let me use the word gospel, right? To spread the message. And as regards it, that's number one. Number two is at the family level, because we need to start changing this orientation so that we are not transferring the wrong psychology, the wrong message from generation to generation. So we need to also redefine manhood. We need to redefine and talk about positive masculinity so that fathers start imbibing it in their sons, right? Because they need to teach boys, a boy child, how to listen and value women, and of course, and girls, right? They need to also serve as a very good role model. That's one. Let me leave the community level. The question is basically towards women political representation, increasing it. Basically, we have he for she, right? It's a global effort that was created by UN Women some years back, right? Engaging men and women, in removing social and cultural barriers that are presented to women and girls in achieving their potentials. And one of it is political participation and representation, being at the forefront of governance, right? So men can also be advocates, he for she. They can be advocates talking about this consistently at the community level, even at the parliament.
Right.
So that is why we need to actually advocate, like having men, right, supporting women leadership.
All right.
So it has to do with a lot of advocacy and organizing.
And reorientation, like you said. All right, it's towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria on political arena, and it's 16 minutes past 2. We're looking at engaging men to support women political participation. My name is Kimberly Ubiabo, and our guest, first guest on the program, Oluwafemi John, who is a senior program manager at Kimpat Development Initiative. Now, Oluwafemi, women face a lot of challenges in the society due to the patriarchal nature of the society. How can we get men to help speak against these harmful practices against women, aside advocacy, like you've said? Are there other ways to do this? Yes,
there are a lot of ways, right? It depends on the strategy we want to use. Like I said, we can look at the strategy at the community level. We can look at the strategy at the family level. Advocacy is one of the things I mentioned. And another way that I think is also very important is the use of media, just like we're doing right now.
Okay.
And when we're talking about media, it can go through the traditional media, mass media, and of course the social media, which is very important to younger generation. Because when we send positive messages out, this is talking about the psychology, subconscious, the subconscious mind, and registering the positive masculinity terms agenda in the mind of the young ones, and of course even men generally, both men, boys, and a whole lot. So we can use the media. That is one. We can use the social media. That is another one. And of course, how do I put it? The traditional setting. I'm talking about the traditional leaders now. the community leaders, we can also term them as the community leaders, because all of these things can be narrowed down to the community, because these are the subunits: family, the community. So we can also use the traditional rulers. By the time we understand that they are also gatekeepers, and a word from them speaks volume to the society, to the community, using such a structure would definitely go a long way, passing this message to the grassroots. Of course, I wouldn't want to, I would leave prejudice out of this now, because the truth is, not being lettered does not mean you don't understand values, right? But the truth is, we need to pass some of this message to the grassroots, because these are some of the things that culminate to the higher point. But you get it twisted that even those that are learned sometimes become how do I put it, engage in some of these harmful masculinities.
Okay. All right. Now, John, how can we get men now who have the financial resources? Bearing in mind that, like you said, men are not the problem, to solve. But now, how do we get men who have the financial resources needed to run for offices to support women who are interested in governance?
Well, I think that's really not really a big question, but it has to do with practicalities, right?
Okay.
I will have to be sincere at this point. In Nigeria as it is now, yes, we have multi-party system, but the truth is, and we just have to be frank with ourselves when we're having this type of conversation, is that as far as Nigeria is concerned today, I don't know what will happen tomorrow, right? If you don't belong to APC, you don't belong to PDP, right? At the national level, then maybe when we are going to a state like Anambra, we'll be talking about HAPGA. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing. I think the first step is that we need more women to actually join politics. Now, when I say join politics, not as cheerleaders. Not as cheerleaders. Because these are some of the problems. The woman that is good to go online or to be at the campaign ground is also good for positions at the executive level. I don't know if you're getting my point,
yes,
right?
Yes, please.
So such women are also good for, because when we have women in executive position, definitely, in Nigeria, we have to be frank, there are party financiers, people, anyway, I don't want to use the word money back because that's going to the negative, right, to the extreme, right? We have some of these people, and definitely we have some of those people that support. And when we have more women in inter-party structure, that they are in strategic position, they are also assigned out there to be delegates for those political parties that engage in indirect primaries. And if it is also direct primary, that gives a larger house to vote for and choose the candidate for the flag bearer of the party. So we need women at that position. But the question now is to get people or men to finance, right? That's the question. But how are we going to talk about financing when women are not even getting the ticket?
Okay, all right.
Because when women get the ticket, that is when the person, either somebody or many people or many persons, right, are financing. Because most times they finance the party. The party arrange for some of course. The money is donated to the party, maybe to the campaign and a whole lot. But that's one area. The second area, even when women get the ticket, because we live in a society that is unpredictable, right? You can see that people will withdraw their money because they know that this is the person, and even prefer to involve in anti-party activities. You can't rule that out because it's a woman, vying for the position or at the race, that governorship, presidential. So then we need to start looking sincerely. Of course, I don't know if this has been tested, but of course it's just my idea that we can also need to get private sectors.
All right then.
And that's nothing but the truth. To get private sectors to see women, gender equality, women, I don't want to use empowerment, right? Women, how do I put it now? Increasing women political participation and representation as one of the issues to be used as theater.
All right.
corporate social responsibility.
All right, great one. It's towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria. On political arena, be a part of the conversation, engaging men to support women political participation. What are your thoughts? Share with us on 07000 917 917. That's a studio line. You can send a text or WhatsApp message to 0703 1756537. We have our guest on the program this afternoon, Oluwafemi John, Senior Program Manager, Kimpath Development Initiative. Towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. Phone lines 07000 917 917. Now, Oluwafemi, what steps can women begin to take now to prepare themselves ahead of the 2023 elections and, of course, strategize on how to get more women elected to the government?
Well, sincerely, if I'm going to answer that question frankly, which I'm going to do, number one thing is we need to get the little number of women that are in leadership position at the executive or appointive or elective executive or parliament legislative arm. We need to, of course, with men that are he or she, need to team together, because sometimes this word called politics in Nigeria is just beyond what we can see on the surface. It's not ephemeral, it's not superficial. It's some of the things that need to do with learning, right? So we need to start strategically, start to mentor women, either young or old.
Yeah, but what steps do you think women themselves now can take ahead of the elections?
Yes, and that's one of it, mentorship.
Okay.
Very important. Mentorship is very important in this. And of course, women that are in leadership position now should also endeavor one way or the other to also see to the issue. You know, campaign finance is another issue in this country. Campaign finance is another issue in this country. So we need women that are in leadership position or in position that makes them to be at the forefront financially, right, to support women, either young or old, that are also getting into politics or have interest in vying for one position or the other. That is another part. Another part is the issue of quality representation.
Okay.
Right. Now, I want to talk about quality representation. Of course. I wouldn't want to overflow or possibly trivialize it, because the truth is, even when we have in this country that we have men dominating the affairs, nobody is even talking about quality. I don't know if you're getting my point. But the truth is, we can't, because of that, not talk about quality representation, because that is how some of us that are he for she's advocating for increased women political participation can also confidently talk more and more about it. So now we need to get women that have experience, men that have experience, to also train. So I'm going to splash mentorship with training, to also train, because politics is an art, right?
Okay.
Politics is an art. It needs to be taught. So we need to train the younger people or women, young or old, getting into politics. We need to train them some of the things that they need to understand. Of course, I'm not talking about the unheard, like the how do I put it now? Or anyway, for lack of diction, let me use the word dirty. I'm not talking about the dirty harm of policies that we have experienced or we are experiencing in Nigeria. I'm talking about the good part of it in the area of organizing, community organizing, in the area of understanding that it's about serving, it's about the need of the people, it's about...
All right. Now, looking at now, before I ask for your advice to women running for offices come 2023, you mentioned dirty. Now, women withdraw from electoral processes due to electoral violence. How do you think men can ensure that women are protected from all forms of violence come 2023 general elections? Violence against women in politics and in an election is another major thing that we need to deal with. And it's one of the things that is hampering the barrier to the increased women political participation and representation we've been talking about. Now, sincerely, oftentimes when we are involving, because Kimpath as an organization also monitor electoral violence,
in elections. And most of the time, you know, we live in a society where it even becomes extremely difficult to actually quantify, put into numbers, into percentage, how violence affects women. But this is the point. When this goes to physical violence, but what about psychological violence? So now, men, as it stands, men are dominating the leadership of political parties. We need to really have an intervention, civil society organizations, development partners, even political parties need to actually see this as an issue and need to actually start talking from the political party level, right? To start talking against psychological violence, you know, sexist remarks, misogynistic remarks, even verbal abuse. Another thing is cyberbullying, right? Cyber harassment, you know, online harassment, hate speeches. You know, in the recent election we had, I think in Edo and Ondo, you had comments calling a woman because it's a party people, it's a party supporter calling her mosquito.
Wonderful.
You understand? These are some of the derogatory statements that made women to pull back. But you know, women as this country, now the last statistics I checked, estimated population.
All right, Oluwafemi John, we have to round off now, so we have to wrap up. So you have to just let us get your final words in a minute, please. Apologies.
Well, I think for me, the conversation, we dwell too much on conversation of what men should not be in the society. We need to now we need to move that conversation and focus on thoughtful dialogue about what being a man, what it should be. Because yes. So I'm just stressing a lot about positive masculinity. You know, we need to start from the family level, from advocacy that we're bringing. We need to bring in the area of positive masculinity, most especially when it comes to gender equality. And of course, men should not be seen as a problem to solve. They need to be seen as partners in progress. And of course, they need to be seen as even co-beneficiaries. Because at the end of the day, all of these things benefit
Oluwafemi, thank you very much. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming on board this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Have a great day. Yes. All right, Oluwafemi John, it's towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria on political arena, and we're looking at engaging men to support women political participation. You too can be a part of the conversation by calling the studio line on 07000 917 917. Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. All right. And shortly we'll connect with our second guest, Okeke Anya, Program Manager, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. And once again, Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. And I am your host, Kimberly Obiebo. Now, gender equality can be achieved if men take responsibility and work side by side with women, because over the years, women have seen marginalization in the Nigerian political space. Hello, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. How is the day going so far? How is the afternoon for you?
The afternoon is going on fine.
That's good to
Thank
hear.
God.
All right, good to hear.
Yeah.
All right, welcome on board. So we're looking at engaging men to support women political participation. Now, do you think the gross marginalization of women in the Nigerian political space is due to the patriarchal nature of our community or our society?
Yes, very, very definitely. Nigeria is very, very patriarchal. There is always a sense of trying to put the preference for male over women, denial of right from school age, women, denying women and young girls going to school, the economy in terms of inheritance issues are also denied women. So, the patriarchal nature of Nigeria is a very, very setback for the country and for women.
Mm-hmm. So now, how can men as leaders take meaningful action to foster an increase in women's representation in decision-making bodies? How do you think this can be done?
I think it's for men to realize that when we talk about women, we are actually referring to our family members. We are talking about our children, we are talking about our sisters, we are talking about our wives, and we are talking about our mothers. So when you realize that it is an equal, benefit, that women being given a chance is equal benefit, the kind of benefit that you also give to your children, to your wife, to your sisters and mothers, you can begin to, when that realization comes, it begins to open the mind of men to support women. Men must do away with the understanding that they are superior to women, or that women cannot contribute much in terms of development or in terms of decision making. Okay. So when men realize that, it will give them an opportunity to open the doors for men and women to participate on equal footing. Beyond this realization is that we must make deliberate efforts in our policies, in our laws, to grant women certain rights. Because it's only when we can grant them certain rights, especially in law, that women can just wake up on their own to challenge certain, anomalies when their rights are not, when their rights are violated. For instance, presently there are certain gender-neutral kind of provisions in law that does not really support improvement in women's participation in decision making. There must be a need, for instance, to make our laws such that, because women are presently, very low, below participation in political affairs, to make deliberate efforts to increase their participation by granting them quotas, by granting them affirmative action, by making provisions in law that can support women. Okay. Without that, it will still be very, very difficult for women on their own to be part of the equal decision-making processes in the country.
All right, 25 minutes to the top of the hour, WFM 91.7. And let me ask you this now. Women face a lot of challenges in the society due to the patriarchal nature of the society. How can we get men to help speak against these harmful practices against women? In your opinion?
It's for us to continue to, to sensitize men, about the problem that women face. It's not, men have such a program that we are doing now, a program that should sensitize men on the need to ensure that women are given their rightful place in the society. It is also to begin to go all out we can use the carrot and stick thing. If we have laws and men are not abiding by the law, we can use the stick. But we can also begin to talk to men to understand situations like this, educate them on the benefits women, especially their girl children, and can get in terms of education. Education is very, very important. I know that many men all over Nigeria will always want, when you mention Dr. Konji-Iweala, every man wants such a person to be the daughter or the wife or the mother. So it is only by giving a proper education to women, not denying women education, ensuring that they have the right kind of education that it can help them to begin to pursue their place in society. So, but without education, it is very, very difficult. So, education for the girl child, more sensitization for the male folk to understand the importance of gender parity, understand the issues of treating boys and girls the same, so that they can also always achieve their potentials in life.
All right. Now, how about financial resources needed to run for offices? What do you think? How can men get involved in this for women to support women who are interested in governance?
I think one of the easiest ways to do is to begin to check, not just to say give women more money, but to begin to apply our laws on campaign financing, because it is this non-application of the law that makes people to go overboard to begin to spend money. And moreover, when politics is seen as a service,
when politics is seen as a service and not a money-making venture, that is where it can give women the space to come and serve. But in as much as we are still having the politics of money, the offices are, there's always a expectation of so much benefit from holding political position. It will still be difficult for women to participate because, like I mentioned, even when it comes to issues of inheritance, women are not even given the power to inherit in many places. If you talk about issues of land, women are not given land. So some of these things are the basic economic ways in which people can raise money. But however, to ensure that women participate fully, we must begin to look at how we spend money on politics, how we spend money on campaigns. Campaign financing is very, very important for us to look at it and ensure that it is reduced. And moreover, to also ensure that many women go into politics, there must be a deliberate effort to see that the benefits that accrue to political office holders are lower. Because when it is lower, people no longer see it as business. Then genuine people that want to serve will come out. And women are always there to serve. Women are always there to give a lot of service to the community and even to their caregiving and so on. So you'll find out that if the cost of campaigning is lower, if the benefits of holding political office is lower, you may also begin to see lesser men trying to go out there to grab power and also see more women being involved in political decision making.
All right. It's towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria on political arena, and we have 20 minutes to the top of the hour. We're looking at engaging men to support women political participation. We have our guest now, Okeke, Anya, Program Manager, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. Now, okay, what steps can women now begin to take to prepare themselves ahead of the 2023 elections and, of course, strategize on how to get more women elected to the government?
Yeah, I think for me, women must begin to engage at their political party level. At this moment in time in Nigeria's constitutional arrangement, the issue of independent candidacy is not permitted. You can only run for office through the political party. Women in political parties must begin now to take positions. Not just taking position to contest, but to take positions to hold their political parties accountable and make demands within the political party structure that they need to reform their constitutions to ensure that they are given position deliberately by the constitution of their party. It is not just to come out and come out to say you are running for election. Political parties must be deliberate to ensuring that they empower women and ensure that women get nominations as candidates, and not just to become, you have thrown the party structure open. Women can come in and become aspirants. Women should not pay nomination fee, and at the end of the day, women don't even get nominated finally. So political parties must make deliberate effort to say that, if they have 109 senatorial seats, our party is going to field at least 35 or 40 positions. 40 women are going to contest within our party for 40 senatorial seats across the country. If all the parties take such position, it can begin to give power to the women. Secondly, there is a bill at the National Assembly now, sponsored by Honorable Kiru Onyejocha and Honorable Right Honorable Femi Miller, asking for an inclusion in our constitution, a women-specific seat for the House of Assembly and the National Assembly. Women should begin to push their members in the National Assembly to ensure that those laws are passed. Because if you pass that law, for instance, you have a situation whereby you have an all-women House of Reps contested seat or Senate contested seat. So the only people that are going to contest for those seats are women. So whichever party that wins it will be a woman that will be there. So if we have that and have one extra seat, at least for I'm using the Senate for instance, that means by 2023, we are going to have a minimum of 37 women as senators. So that is a very good leverage for women to work within their political parties, engage their members that are in the National Assembly and state assemblies to ensure that we pass this piece of legislation. Women cannot just be docile, they cannot just keep quiet and just wait for men to dash them seats. And
okay, we have a caller here. Let's hear who's calling.
Women to struggle as women leaders of political parties, which are very, very insignificant positions. Women must come out in collectives to make demands on their political parties, to make demands on their representatives. If it is possible, standing up in front of the National Assembly until certain laws are passed for women. So it is not just for them to sit down, wear a bar, and come out to campaign, and at the end of the day, we keep on shouting marginalization of women. They must come out to play politics.
Okay, so
that politics must start within their political parties.
Okay, so how about the women in government now? What role do you think they have to play on how to get more women elected to the government?
I think that for me, my understanding is that some of the women, especially those in the House of Reps, they are making efforts. I've just mentioned the Honorable Oluwafemi that has a bill to increase women's participation. There is Honorable, I think the Honorable Onamuga also, who is also pushing for women increase women participation in politics. Some of the women there are trying, but the point is that their numbers are very, very significant. You cannot say out of 360 members of the House of Reps and you have like 12 women, and those 12 women are going to make a significant, have a significant vote to support women. So those women are still going to be dependent on men before some of their issues are passed. You cannot talk about 5 senators or 6 senators, female senators, against 104 men. So those things will not work. So there must be a deliberate, that's why I talk about having a deliberate effort, a deliberate attempt to ensure that in our laws we push for women inclusion. Otherwise, in one report that I read the other day on Metabarity was even saying that something must be done. It's a male supporting women issues, that something must be done to deliberately increase more women participation. That otherwise in 2023 that there may even be fear that we may not have even a female senator if care is not taken. So these are the ways we must take this deliberate effort to ensure that women participation is increased. And just a few of these legislators are supporting women issues. So women must come out on their own and make those demands on their representatives and on their parties.
All right. Towards an inclusive governance on the political arena, I am Kimberly Ubiabo. We have our second guest on the program, Okeke Anya. And you can be a part of the conversation by calling 07000 917 917. We're looking at engaging men to support women political participation. Now, Okeke, women withdraw from electoral processes due to electoral violence. How can men ensure that women are protected from all forms of violence come 2023 general elections?
I think on that score, it is not just maybe talking about issues of maybe men now, protecting women in terms of violence. This goes just beyond men. It goes far deeper into the entire Nigerian security architecture. Beyond elections, you can find out that presently everybody is almost on the run in terms of security issues. So the situation is not even that okay for ordinary citizens just walking the streets, and you can imagine how bad it will look when the elections are coming up. So I think the arena, beyond just calling on men, is that government must put in place systems that work for the entire country, security systems that work for the entire country, systems that protect the ordinary citizens in terms against violence and against other forms of crime.
Okay.
But besides that, probably is to say families should ensure that their children don't get involved in electoral violence. Because I've actually checked, I mean, these are rhetorics. You can talk it over and over again, say it again and again that the parents, the children of politicians, you don't see them getting involved in electoral violence. So they dash you #1 and you are running into the street, and mostly are the young boys. They even give you drugs to run into the street. So it's to continue to, not just men, family members, churches, mosques, religious bodies, civil society groups, to continue to talk and preach against violence during elections. That's the only way it can protect both men and also female in elections. Because not even the males that are involved in the elections are even safe when it comes to electoral violence. I think it's usually most of the time the balance of terror. Although at the end of the day, more women suffer.
All right. Someone sent a message here. We'll take this call first of all. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. Kimberly.
Yes. Good afternoon. What's the name and?
It's comrade from Tafan.
Okay, comrade.
Comrade, now. I'm very surprised for the question you put this afternoon. Now. How can a man protect from during the election to avoid election violence? But so many women used to say that anything women can do, women can do. They can still protect themselves.
And they'll protect each other now. Man will protect, woman will protect. In this case now, it's the woman we're looking at. So how can the man protect?
One woman will protect herself. One woman will protect herself now because they can do everything that man can do.
So what is your own solution now? I thought you sent a message. You said electronic transmission of results.
Let the woman protect herself by gathering herself, by doing awareness, by fighting for electronic transmission of results.
All right, comrade, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments, your contribution. Comrade has sent a message earlier. Okay. He said women can be protected in terms of violence by electronic transmission of results. Do you think there's a possibility? Do you see the possibility of this? Like, will it happen that way? Will everyone be safe regardless of the gender? Talk about.
I am in support of electronic transmission of results. But then, before these results, before you get to the result level, what has happened, right? The whole idea is not just to say, well, if elections have come in peacefully, everything is done peacefully, it is easy to transmit. I think beyond the transmission of results, we are talking about the whole processes that lead up to the transmission of the results. Issues of accreditation, issues of even finding their way to the polling booths and so on. That is the issues we are talking about when we are talking about electoral violence. So I agree with the comrade that is talking about the need to do transmission of results electronically. But beyond that, what has happened prior to the transmission of results, I think that is actually the issue at hand when we talk about violence. So I still believe that we need to put in place a very robust system that will allow people to exercise their franchise of voting. Then we can now begin to talk about electronic transmission of results.
All right. So, what would be your advice to women running for offices come 2023?
Yes, like I said, every woman that is not even every woman. Women should generally mobilize themselves. Yes, you are talking to me as a man to offer some solutions. Women should mobilize themselves, move beyond the political arena. They talk to traditional leadership, talk to religious leaders, engage civil society groups, engage their party leaders, and have a common focus on what we want to do is to see that we are no longer marginalized. Move to the National Assembly, move to the State Assembly. I mean, as a unit, it may be difficult to say how do you gather all these women to move as a unit. Women must begin to think as a bloc, and not just to think in terms of political party, because generally the marginalization is for all women. It is not based on no political party. Forget what they say verbally, we are for women. No political party has even, whether in government or the people that have been in government, and they know that we have a national gender policy that says that you cannot have less than 35% of either sex, either in appointment or in electoral position.
All right.
None of the political parties have lived up to that expectation. Yes, they will be the first one will come out here and tell you that, we are for women. And funny enough, women will not even use this particular provision, a policy that is already there for government, to begin to ask their political parties, to ask the government, either their state government or the federal government, that this is our position. This is what we want, because this is what the policy is saying. Women are not even coming out to make those demands in a collective manner. So for me, women must come out, like I said, they keep their hands in politics and say that this is they cannot sit at home and begin to beg for this thing. It is their right.
All
and
right.
there are certain policy provisions that are already there for them to make demands, but they don't come out.
All right. Your final words.
To challenge the government to say that no, we have a national gender policy signed by the federal government.
All right. Your final words.
What is the federal government doing about it? What are the state government doing about it? What are the local government doing about it? Everybody is just waiting for them to be given some token. And immediately you give one woman token, she will never talk about the policy again.
All right. Let's get your final words then. Or do we take that as your final word?
Yeah, my final word is that women should come out. If they really want to get involved in politics, they must come out and fight for their rights. Men, in most of politics, at times nobody gives it to you freely. But I know that if they make those demands, they are powerful. They are very powerful. They have the numbers, and they can achieve their desired objectives.
All right. Thank you, Okeke. Anya, thank you very much for being a part of our political arena this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So it is towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria on political arena on WFM 91.7, where we discuss politicking in Nigeria. Towards an inclusive governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. And on political arena today, we discussed engaging men to support women political participation. Once again, Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigeria is an initiative of Nigerian Women Trust Fund and supported by Open Society Initiative of West Africa. Now, gender balance in politics can be achieved if men work side by side with women to share the responsibility in breaking harmful cultural norms and practices, as well as the institutional, structural, and legal barriers that hinder women's equal and influential political participation. Women can partner with men to enact laws that will promote women's rights, eradicate laws and policies that discriminate against women, and limit opportunities open to women. Men can help advocate and canvass for votes for women running for offices, supporting registration of female voters, and ensure that women are secured during electoral processes. Big thanks to our guest, Oluwafemi John, Senior Program Manager, Kimpact Development Initiative, and Okeke Anya, Program Manager, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center. Thanks to the production team led by Esther Laribe and Taiwo Adeleye. Towards an Inclusive Governance in Nigerian Political Arena continues next Tuesday at 2 p.m. on Women Radio 91.7. I am Kimberly Ubiabo. Next on Women Radio 91.7 is the news at 3. Good afternoon. 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 News at 3. Good afternoon.
WFM 91.7.